You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and Opia, and we go over to do our usual crossover. Well, months after Britain voted, Brexit continues to dominate the news, especially in Europe. The EU and the UK agreed to draft a deal following 18 months of wrangling, well, as the EU's financial and political heavyweight and one of Ghana's major development partners, the UK. We look at Brexit today through German lenses with our partners DW. Political correspondent Peter Dahl is standing by for us. Hello, Peter. It's good to speak to you this afternoon. Where does Germany and Angela Merkel currently stand regarding Brexit? Let's start with that.
Well, German Chancellor Angela Merkel has been very clear that she will not accept any more compromises. She will not accept any more changes to the draft deal. At best, maybe slight edits to the footnotes. And most EU leaders agree, it seems. They're meeting on Sunday in Brussels for an extraordinary summit to finalize the deal. What's really fascinating from a German standpoint, though, is how the mood in Berlin has shifted in the course of these 18 months. At first, Germans were kind of lining up to beg the Brits to stay. Now, however, it looks like they've gone through all the stages of grief and have finally arrived at acceptance, even a hint of defiance almost. The tenor here in Berlin is that, Brits have made their bed and now they must lie in it.
So in that case, what does Brexit mean if it so happens, regardless of what they agree on? What will it mean for Germany at this stage?
Well, what they agree on is quite essential. There's no two ways about it. It will hurt no matter what. Germany is losing a very close political ally, one of its most important trading partners. But if we try to parse this a little bit, the different potential outcomes, worst case, they fail to strike a deal. That means a hard Brexit, meaning that the UK would be catapulted out of the single market. They would be catapulted out of the customs union. And that effectively means that there will be no more free movement of people and maybe more importantly, financially at least, of goods. This would be a logistical and financial nightmare and one that Germany is dreading. It could cost companies billions of euros in trade tariffs. Workers would have to relocate. Companies would have to relocate, create entirely new infrastructures. So that is something that Germany does not want to see happen. The best case is a soft Brexit, and that means that the UK remains in the single market. However, the uncertainty of the past months has kind of already led to a lot of companies taking their business elsewhere. That said, it's not all doom and gloom. Frankfurt, Germany's financial capital, so to speak, is hoping to replace London as the EU's main financial hub. And politically, the Brits do have a reputation of being very Eurosceptic and a bit of a thorn in Germany's side sometimes, getting in the way of what the Germans would like to see achieved. With them out the way, maybe the way has been paved for Germany to, get its way in Brussels a bit more.
Well, do we have an idea what life will look like after Brexit for Chancellor Merkel?
Yes, actually, we've gotten a preview of that in the recent weeks. The answer seems to be that Merkel is increasingly turning to France, to neighbor President Emmanuel Macron. The two have been kind of wooing one another in recent weeks. They've made passionate pleas for a stronger, more united European Union at commemoration events for World War I. This obviously in the face of a surging nationalism across Europe. So what they're offering and what they're hoping to achieve is something a bit more muscular, budgetary, get the EU its own budget, so more money to help prevent the kind of financial disasters, for instance, that we saw in 2008, but kind of mainly a European army. That is the big deal that everyone is looking at. It used to be that Europe relied on the US for protection and therefore didn't really need its own army. But with President Trump in the White House, that seems to be a bit out the window. There's a feeling in Europe that it needs to be able to fend for itself. Will Merkel and Macron get their way in terms of pushing for this stronger Europe? It could be an uphill battle. Even within the EU, the number of Eurosceptics is growing, has been growing for a while now, and the EU still remains divided.
So what does this uncertainty with Brexit and the possible outcomes mean for Africa, the African continent, for which the UK and countries in the EU like Germany are major development partners?
In a lot of African countries, there's a hope that the Brexit could be to their benefit, that this could be a potential boon. They have been used to, for the past many years, to have to negotiate with all of the EU. With the UK out of the picture, they would be able to negotiate directly with the UK. So they wouldn't have to deal with the same level of bureaucracy that they're currently facing in the EU, with all the different EU partners having to come to an agreement before they sign any deals. So a lot of African countries hoping to profit from Brexit, have a more direct line to the UK and the British market. And Africa is an increasingly attractive continent for foreign investors. Increasing urbanization, obviously, as you know, more and more skilled workforce, just so much potential for countries and investors outside of Africa. So that's definitely the hope that the Brexit could end up being to their benefit.
Right. Well, Peter, thank you very much for that update. Peter Dahl is political correspondent with our partners, DW, bringing us all of those analysis and thoughts all the way from Berlin in Germany. This is still The Pulse with me, Gifty, and Apia.